this morning. Item 5, deputations by appointment. We do have one deputation this morning. Helen Broughton is joining us by Zoom for a deputation in relation to item 14, the draft submission on the MFE consultation on resource management reform. So, Helen, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. So you know the drill very well. You've got 10 minutes.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Andrew, for allowing me to speak. I applied yesterday at 5 o'clock, so I sort of appreciate that. And particularly the staff have gone to some lengths to get something on the board for you. Can you see that? Is it up on the board?
Yeah.
At council? Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now I'm coming along. Those of you who know me well know that I've got a strong interest in planning. 2001, so that's over 20 years. I've got a very good idea of what actually happens on the ground during resource consent hearings processes, what gets approved and what doesn't get approved. I did make a personal submission on the Natural and Built Environment Act. My submission was very much in line with that of council. And I've looked at the further submission today that you have by council. There's one issue I'm highly concerned about. Just before I touch on the issue of concern, which is item 16, I had thought I was submitting as a board member, and I could do that. So I made a submission being an individual board member with some experience. However, I recently discovered that when I put the submission in, it was disregarded because they were expecting submissions from boards only. So I made a mistake in not understanding that, because if I had, I would have taken it through the board, complex as it is. So the recommendation I'm making is that I'm very concerned in item 16 of the removal of non-complying activities. Can I suggest that's the very last status that should be in fact removed? And in fact, I suggest we leave the current activity of non-complying there and let it remain. I don't even understand why you would think of taking it out. Now, on the board in front of you, I've got the environmental impacts of activities are controlled by the Resource Management Act. The RMA Act classifies activities into 6 categories. The really, in fact, 4 as permitted and prohibited are clear from the outset. So you've really got 4 categories. Just flick to my computer here, sorry about this. Sorry, I've let it run out. You've really got 4 activities only when we're looking at the resource consent. So the rules in the regional and district plans determine which category an activity falls within. Now, the reason I'm so strong on non-complying is, and I put it in black, non-complying activity status is a way to signal that activities will be subject to a greater degree of scrutiny and indicates to the community areas and indicates to the community areas where such activities are likely to be inappropriate. Non-complying activity status is a way for council to signal that activities will be subject to greater scrutiny. And if, for example, you might have an office block planned for a residential area. There's one I know has happened already. An office block was planned for travellers' accommodation area. That was one that I thought would go through, but it didn't go through. From experience on hearings panels, the applicant face a higher threshold to get the resource consent if it's non-complying activity. I wonder if the push to have this taken out has come from developers. However, having said that, in fact, very few resource consents of any nature are declined, and even in the non-complying activity category, there's not a lot of resource consent applications declined. What it does is there's much more attention to the actual plan paid. So you have to have a much clearer look at, does the city plan or the district plan allow this activity in this area? It's not just minor effects. So look, my recommendation, if you could agree to argue that non-complying should stay, I'd appreciate that. But I'm aware this is coming at you at the last minute. So what I'm suggesting is, in the time available, the best thing to do is to leave it out. So don't endorse it. Just take out that paragraph that says we support non-complying status be removed. So if that's not there, it's silent, and you can give yourself more time before the actual act comes into the full public submission stage. And I think if it's considered further, you will be against it, but at least at this point, don't endorse what central government's wanting. Christchurch, as you know, is subject to medium density zoning throughout the whole of Christchurch. Council rightly objected to it, but it's been ignored. So also is Selwyn and Waimak. And I think that's incredible for those areas to be subject to 3-storied housing. But the last thing Christchurch needs is further desecration of their built environment. And it just sounds a technicality, but I think if you leave this as it is, you'll get 4-story office blocks, you'll get 5-story apartment complexes going into their medium residential environment. So I think the simplest thing is to leave that sentence out, please. And that's it, Andrew.
All right, thank you very much. So there's a couple of minutes left for questions, if indeed there are questions.
Thank you.
Pauline, you've got a question?
Yeah, thank you, Helen. I'm assuming that they're recommending taking it out because discretionary, which is the next level down, if you like, also requires resource consent. So what, in your view, is the difference between those two?
Yes, I can perhaps answer that if I can.
Yep.
Yes, I've spent some time on this last night and trying to find the real difference. It seems that non-complying has greater attention to the district plan. They look somewhat similar on, in fact, the surface, but my experience is that non-complying does create a higher barrier, and I think you've got to consider the district plan more under that than you do under discretionary, where you're really looking more at effects and whether the effects are less than minor or in fact more than minor.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will try and get some better information on that too. I'll have to, but that's, I did search around on it last night.
All right, thank you. No further questions. Helen, thank you for your deputation. You've made the point very clearly. And I think it's fair to say that we can anticipate that when staff come to the table, when they present the report, they've obviously heard the deputation and may either comment on the matter you've raised, or otherwise there will be some questions that may well be raised at that time. But thanks for raising this with us before we get to the item on the agenda this morning. Thanks very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors.
All right. So now we move to item 6, presentation of petitions. There are none. And then item 7, vertical capital delivery elected member updates. Darren, welcome to the table. Are there any remarks that you want to make as we move into this report? We've also got Mark Noonan available as Project Director, Vertical Capital Delivery, and John O'Hagan from Otakaro, who's available to answer any questions on Parakiore. So good morning, and thank you for being here.
Morena Koto, thank you. So this was what was the major facilities report. We've now amalgamated major facilities into a wider vertical capital delivery portfolio, and we'll have an updated report when we come back in 2 months' time about this and the other projects. I will take this as read, noting that we do have the 2 aforementioned members here to talk to Parakiore if required.
All right, that's great. So moving to any questions now on any aspect of this report. Jimmy.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding on page 22, the Home Base Center, I reviewed those master schedule. The completion date in here is April of 2023, next year. However, I also reviewed page 307. Their delivery date will be in March 23. Another page, delivery date will be in February 23. So the delivery date we have February, March, and April. Which one is correct?
We're getting a revised contractor program, Jimmy, and that's why we're saying at the moment Q1 2023. So when that firms up, we'll be able to publish a practical completion date. So for now, Q1 2023, so February, March, or April.
So you mean it's in March 23?
No.
Q1.
Q1 2023. So the first 3 or 4 months of 2023, and when we have that revised and updated contractor program, we'll then be able to publish a firmer date to you.
Okay, but if that's true, I suggest different pages be consistent. Otherwise, confused.
Yep.
Okay.